hope you know what you're doing.
This is the time to hold our nerve.
Steel Town Murders starts next Monday at 9 on BBC One and iPlayer.
Australia.
There's a bright future.
Can't believe we're actually doing this.
Here we go then. Start of our new lives.
G'day, new arrivals. Welcome to paradise.
It's like a prisoner of war camp.
We can have a wonderful life here, but we need to embrace it.
£10 Palms starts Sunday at 9 on BBC One and iPlayer.
The news this bank holiday night, now on BBC One with Clive Myrie.
Tonight at 10, the Metropolitan Police expresses regret over the arrests of 6 anti-monarchy protesters ahead of the King's coronation. Some of those taken into custody on Saturday had threatened legal action over their detentions. It comes as King Charles issues a message of sincere and heartfelt thanks to all those who helped in the celebrations. And as the coronation weekend draws to a close, William and Louis join thousands around the country in community events, stressing the importance of volunteering. Also on tonight's programme, in Ukraine at least 3 people have died in airstrikes as Russia escalates drone attacks. The government says it wants to invest millions in GP practices in England to ease pressure on appointments.
It's going to be...
Good evening. In the last hour, the Metropolitan Police has expressed regret over the arrest of 6 anti-monarchy protesters ahead of the King's coronation, after deciding that no charges will be brought against them. 64 people were detained in all. Some campaigners have described their arrests as an attack on democracy. Earlier, Rishi Sunak said the police did what they thought was best. Our correspondent, Sancha Berg, has the very latest.
The coronation of a new king is an important moment for those who oppose as well as those who support the monarchy. Some who'd organised these protests weren't there. They'd been arrested hours before, their placards seized, including the chief executive of Republic, Graham Smith. He claimed police suspected they intended to disrupt events by locking themselves onto fixed objects, an offence under new legislation that came into force last week. Tonight, he was told he and 5 others will face no further action.
We also want explanation as to why we had 4 months of briefings in which we were told that all of our plans were absolutely acceptable and fine and well within the law, and then we were arrested. We want to know where those decisions came from. I'd like to know whether there was any pressure from the Home Office and the Home Secretary, and I would like a very clear and frank admission and an apology.
Tonight, the Metropolitan Police expressed regret for the arrest of Graham Smith and his group. Earlier, the Prime Minister had praised the way the police had handled the event.
The police are operationally independent of government. They'll make these decisions based on what they think is best. And actually, I'm grateful to the police and everyone who played a part in ensuring that this weekend has gone so well, so successfully and so safely.
Of the 64 people arrested, 4 have been charged, 2 of them with drugs offences. No one has been charged so far with offences under the new provisions of the Public Order Act.
It is very unusual to see such a high proportion of arrests and such a small number of people presently charged. Usually in situations like this, and I've been dealing with protest law for many, many years now, over a decade, usually you see a higher number of charges.
Thank you.
Policing relies on consent and public trust, from those who camped out to cheer the new king and from those who waved placards to oppose him. Sancha Berg, BBC News.
Well, tonight, the first official photographs of the newly crowned King Charles and Queen Camilla have been issued by Buckingham Palace. It comes as more than 50,000 volunteering events have taken place across the UK on the final day of the coronation weekend. Members of the royal family joined volunteers for what's been called the Big Help Out, in tasks including beach cleaning, litter picking and wildflower planting. Our royal correspondent Sarah Campbell has that story.
The first official portraits marking the crowning of King Charles III and Queen Camilla, taken on the afternoon of their coronation in the throne room of Buckingham Palace. Also released a message from the King to all those who joined in the celebrations that having their support and encouragement was the greatest possible coronation gift. Today, his family were once again out and about on this, the last day of the long weekend, supporting the nationwide drive to boost volunteering, hitting the target at a scout event in Slough. 5-year-old Prince Louis, on his first royal engagement, was more than happy to get involved. Also helping with a spot of digging, his dad and big brother. As a former volunteer scout herself, Mum was expert at toasting marshmallows. The whole family, including Princess Charlotte, were here to support the big help out. The call to encourage as many people as possible to spend a bit of time, well, helping out.
When the bunting comes down and we move on from the coronation, the legacy of this weekend needs to be about service and thinking through, okay, this isn't just about this day or this weekend, it's about how volunteering plays a part in the fabric of this country and why it's important to individuals.
Not too far away in Reading, Sophie, the Duchess of Edinburgh, was perfecting her puppy training skills alongside the Duke of Edinburgh.
Well, I can come and help out with the strawberries.
And the Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak, and his wife, Akshata Murthy, were put to work in the kitchen. More than 30,000 charities and community organisations across the UK took part, inviting would-be volunteers to get involved. On a beach near Carnarvon, the Archbishop of Wales helped out picking up litter. The new First Minister of Scotland, Humza Yousaf, visited a community larder in Dundee. And locals got their paddles out around the town of Enniskillen in Northern Ireland. Volunteer numbers are significantly down since before the pandemic, and reinvigorating their numbers, not just today, but going forward, will, it's hoped, be the lasting legacy of the coronation. Sarah Campbell, BBC News.
Meanwhile, 2 Caribbean prime ministers have told the BBC that their countries aren't completely free as long as King Charles remains head of state. The leaders of both St Kitts and Nevis and St Vincent and the Grenadines say they want their people to have the final say on whether they should become republics.
The head of state still reside in the monarchy of England. And so that aspect of it is telling us that we are not totally free yet. That consultation or discussion will start sometime during my leadership.
It is an absurdity and it offends people in a psychological way. In 1979, we reclaimed our independence, but that reclamation is incomplete until this aspect is addressed.
Our royal correspondent Nicholas Witchell is with me now. Nick, it's been a long weekend of celebrations, a little bit of controversy too. I wonder how you would assess how well it's gone as far as the palace is concerned.
I think it's gone as well as they dared to hope. The reign of Charles III has been well and truly established. Now, he's been king since the moment of his mother's death, but I think the focus last September was very much on mourning and paying tribute to the late Queen. With the coronation, the focus, the international focus, has been on the monarch and the monarchy. Now, it's probably entrenched views on all sides. Anti-monarchists sense an opportunity. If they were watching on Saturday, I would imagine that they would have found it all rather strange and disconnected from reality. Supporters of the monarchy would say that this was the monarchy doing what the monarchy does, connecting us with our past, providing a distinctive sense of identity, demonstrating the essence of what it is to have a monarch. It is that he or she is set apart to serve. That has been the theme that we have heard constantly. Now, I think we can assume that This king, King Charles, and Prince William are fully aware of the challenges and of the need to address them. Relevance, as we've said many times over this weekend, diversity, very important to the king, the attitudes within the realms. I mean, Charles has been very clear, it is entirely a matter for them to decide how they want to go forward. But I think in Charles we have a king whose personality, whose inclination is to engage in a more open, a more visible, or more proactive way than perhaps was the case with his revered mother, to engage, as he said tonight in a message from the palace, to rededicate our lives to serving the people of the United Kingdom, the realms and the Commonwealth.
All right, Nick, thank you. Nicholas Witchell there. Now, the authorities in Ukraine say at least 3 people have been killed in airstrikes. The country has also been hit by the biggest wave of Russian drone attacks in months. Our correspondent Hugo Beshega is in Kiev for us tonight. Hugo, why the escalation now?
Well, Clive, I think the Russian strategy here is to test and exhaust the Ukrainian air defense systems and even try to find out how they work. The Ukrainians have been extremely successful in destroying most of those missiles and drones, but this is not a perfect system. Some places have been hit, and I think there's also the psychological impact. Ukrainians are exhausted after these frequent air raid alerts and airstrikes. And this is happening as Ukraine says it's finishing its plans for a much anticipated counteroffensive against Russian forces. Now, in Russia, tomorrow, it's Victory Day to celebrate the defeat of Nazi Germany in 1945. President Putin is expected to make a speech in Moscow and will be looking for signs of what he may be planning to do next.
Indeed. Okay, Hugo, thank you. Hugo Beshega, they're live in Kiev. In Sudan, fighting around the capital Khartoum continues as representatives of the rival military factions hold talks in Saudi Arabia. Now, the United Nations says around 100,000 refugees have escaped to neighbouring states. Among those are 47,000 who've headed to Egypt in the north, while Chad has seen an influx of more than 25,000 people. And more than 6,000 Sudanese nationals have made their way to the Central African Republic. Our Africa correspondent, Catherine Biorahanga, has sent us this report from the border with South Sudan.
Day or night, the mass movement of people out of Sudan continues. A conflict now in its 3rd week has left a trail of human suffering. Christina Peters is desperate for medical attention. She travelled hundreds of kilometres while injured. An explosive device hit her home in Sudan's capital, Khartoum.
I have shrapnel in my leg, 4 injuries here in my back and 3 here in my arm. I went to hospital and we found the army there. The doctor said I should be taken for surgery, but the army refused. The doctor just gave me antibiotics and put dressings on me.
That's Sudan just over on the horizon. And this is another group of people coming in. Every day, thousands of people crossing this no man's land between Sudan and South Sudan. This has been a long and dangerous journey. But for some of them, the challenges are only just beginning. Most of the people crossing into South Sudan are South Sudanese nationals. Many had fled north because of the war in their own country, but have now been forced to return. Maria Nyamang's baby, Sunday, is malnourished. She's unable to breastfeed, and without any money, she can't buy her formula milk. She doesn't know where help will come from.
When I reached the transit center, they didn't give me anything, just water. And today morning, they give us a small amount of food. It is not enough. Even now, I'm hungry. I'm worried about my children.
The World Food Programme is providing basic meals to the new arrivals, but it was already supporting millions of people in South Sudan. and it has had to take food from them to help those newly displaced.
We already overstrained with the level of the resources for already existing programs supporting the South Sudanese. So now with the incoming influx, it's overstraining the resources.
This is a part of the world where generations have faced war and displacement. Hopes that a new chapter was being written are quickly fading. Catherine Biarahanga, BBC News, on the border between South Sudan and Sudan.
The government says it wants to invest hundreds of millions of pounds in GP practices in England to help end what it calls the scramble for appointments. Now, it comes ahead of a major announcement tomorrow on how pharmacies may be able to help. Meanwhile, a BBC investigation has found that the number of pharmacies in England has fallen to its lowest level since 2015. Here's our health editor, Hugh Pym.
I'm a second-generation pharmacist.
Preparing for the morning rush in Birmingham.
I hear lovely stories about my dad and how he helped so many patients when they couldn't get support and advice from their GPs.
But for the first time in their history, this pharmacy made a loss.
Thank you.
Staff shortages, higher costs, and more people wanting help is making life difficult for pharmacists like Sanj.
We would love to help support the government, support the NHS, help GPs, but we can't do it with the financial constraints that we're on. We can't give the advice, we can't be there for our patients.
And for some of those patients, speaking to their local chemist is a lifeline.
Hello, can pharmacy? They've dealt with my sister's meds, my mum's meds, the whole family. Anytime I've ever had a problem, couldn't get into a doctor's, I've come here.
Don't go to the hospital, go to your GP. Don't go to your GP, go to the pharmacy. So if you haven't got the pharmacy, where'd you go?
Those representing pharmacists in England say real terms government funding has been cut, though they hope a new plan will improve things.
What everyone learnt during the pandemic was one of the two places that will stay open is a pharmacy, so lots more people coming for advice and support that we're not paid to provide.
300 miles away in the Scottish borders, a solution's already in place. It's a formal contract with the Scottish Government. Unlike in England, pharmacies get paid for every consultation, and some can prescribe medication for patients.
I used to have an English pharmacy, but I sold it, and all the outlets we have now are in Scotland. The Scottish contract is much more patient-focused. They like to get a problem sorted as quick as they can.
The Department of Health said the services pharmacists could provide in England were being increased, and extra investment had been announced.
Well, Hugh, what are we expecting as the government puts a little bit more flesh on the bones of all of this tomorrow?
Well, Clive, the state of GP services in England has been rising up the political agenda. It was raised on the doorsteps in the local election campaign, so there'll be a lot of focus on this whole GP access plan. We heard today the first bit of it, which is improving telephone services, investing in those so people can get through to their local surgery and book an appointment or seek advice. And then tomorrow we're going to get the rollout of more services to be provided by pharmacies in order they can take the pressure off GP practices, treating minor illnesses, minor ailments, a broader range, and also prescribing so people in certain circumstances don't need to go to a GP to actually get their prescription. And there will be more money for this and the start of talks between pharmacists and the government over how they'll provide those services. But none of that really will deal with the underlying problems we've been hearing about there, this long-term decline in real terms, funding, higher costs, difficulties recruiting people, and actually closures, fewer pharmacies than there were a couple of years ago. And I think those issues, workforce, both for pharmacies and for GPs, remain long-term problems. So I think the jury will remain out tomorrow.
Sure. OK. Hugh, thank you. Hugh Pym. Now, it's been an astonishing day in the Premier League. 3 games involving sides at the bottom of the table produced no less than 21 goals. Joe Linsky watched every one.
They've been in the top flight since 1954. Now it was time for Everton to be defiant. A 5-1 win lifts them out the bottom 3 and above Leicester City. Earlier they were 3-0 down at half-time at Fulham and lost the game 5-3. The last decade's seen Leicester win the league and FA Cup, but those are now distant memories. The Foxes' future comes down to their last 3 matches. In this relegation race, sudden shifts can still happen. Nottingham Forest faced Southampton and led 2-0, but the Saints stayed in touch. The bottom side made this 90 nerve-jangling minutes. Forest knew a win would...
Raining goals in the footy. What about the rain out of the sky?
Been plenty of it today, Clive, most definitely. But there are some brighter skies for some. Let me take you to Liverpool first of all. Big week of Eurovision celebrations begin, and it looks like we'll have some dry moments here, nice in the sunshine, but there will be some showers around, particularly on Wednesday and Thursday. And indeed, for all of us, keep your eye in the skies for dark, looming clouds over the next few days. Those clouds building up. For some, there could be some thunderstorms to go with it. The weather could vary from 1 mile to the next. Out there at the moment, though, some particularly wet conditions pushing across the southern half of England and Wales, and some live, even thundery showers through the Irish Sea into northern England and parts of southern Scotland. But many western areas become drier through the night, and it's going to be quite a mild night. Temperatures no lower than around 7 to 13 degrees into the morning. As for tomorrow morning, if you're up early, East Anglia, the southeast, be prepared. There will be some early rain. That clears through. Sunshine comes out for many. Showers through the morning, northern England and in southeast Scotland. And then they'll develop a bit more widely. But during the afternoon, northwest England, West Midlands, Wales, probably best favoured for some longer, sunnier spells. Some of you avoiding the showers altogether. And once the sun's out, like we've seen recently, it'll feel quite pleasantly warm. Temperatures around 17 to 19 for a few of you. But where the showers do occur, especially later in the day, southern and eastern England, they could become torrential and thundery and have a bit of an impact on your journey home tomorrow night. Now, as you go through into Wednesday, low pressure then starts to become a bit more centred towards us, and that means whilst it's another showery day, there's going to be more cloud and a little less sunshine. Certainly to begin with, in the west, those showers develop very widely across the country, a greater chance of seeing them come your way, so fewer of you will stay dry throughout on Wednesday, and temperatures will drop just a little bit. But as that low pressure drifts its way southwards, focus for the heaviest showers as we go through into Thursday will be across England and Wales, but I promise you a little bit of sunshine, Clive. By the end of the week, start of the weekend, sunnier and warmer.
OK, just enough for Eurovision. OK, Matt, thank you. Matt Taylor there. And that's it. In a moment, we'll join our colleagues across the nations and regions for the news where you are. But we'll leave you now with some of the images of the coronation weekend celebrations. Have a very good night.
God save the King!
Coronations are a declaration of our hopes for the future.
Welcome to BBC London. I'm Victoria Hollins. The Metropolitan Police has defended its handling of an incident in which 2 dogs were shot dead and a man was tasered. It happened after officers were called on Sunday to a woman being attacked by a dog on Commercial Road in East London. Footage of the incident posted online, which has been viewed thousands of times, has split opinion, as Matt Graveling reports, and a warning that you may find